Alrighty. So we're nearing the home stretch now, right? Um, Only one more Master in Chemistry left. Okay, that is Chapter 10. Yep, next Tuesday, December 15th. That's next Tuesday, yep, evening before our final exam.
I think in Master in Chemistry it's on that Wednesday. Last time I checked.
Yeah. I think I'm going to change it. Well, I'll be due the. I'll do that, but yeah, it'll be due 11:59 p.m. Tuesday night. Okay. So, we're doing presentations in lab today and Wednesday. As soon as you get in the lab, I'll have a sign-up list on the board for order. I did already get one request for a group to go first for this afternoon's lab, but other than that, you can sign up on the board. Let's see here. So presentations today and Wednesday. We'll talk about how that's going to work. You are going to get the first 30 minutes during lab to just kind of go over it a little bit with your group, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we'll start at 30 minutes after the start with the first group. The final lab reports, I made 2 due dates for this just so that all the groups had the same amount of time on it. So Friday night at 11:59 p.m. for the Monday lab. Okay, so that's people presenting today. You'll have until Friday night. People presenting on Wednesday will have until Sunday night. Okay, so I typically like to leave some time between the presentation and the formal report because there are a lot of times during the question and answer part after your presentation that somebody may suggest something that would help make a graph a little more clear or something that we suggest you address or something. So I'll give you an extra opportunity to get a little bit more added into your report if you think that's going to be helpful. Okay. I'll remind you of those same dates in lab, and I'll also program those into the drop boxes. I'll have a Dropbox for the presentation also, so there will be a Dropbox for the presentation and one for the report. Before you leave lab on the presentation day, I need you to upload the actual presentation file, if you can, to the Dropbox. Okay. So then let's talk final exam. So a week from Wednesday, notice the time here. You get a full 2 hours for the final exam. If that is a conflict for anybody, if anybody has something that you need to absolutely be at 3, let me know and we can get you started a little bit early, okay, if you need to. But otherwise, we'll start at 1:30 and you'll go till 3:30. So let me show you those project guidelines. Let's go back to content and handouts, and we now have final exam study guide right here. So make sure to carefully look through this. It has sort of a list of topics. Should be no surprise that it's all the main topics that we've talked about so far. These are equations that you'll probably have to use, but again, should be no surprises. I'm sure that all of you probably already know those equations already, but those are the ones that you have to know. They will not be provided. Okay, you have to know them, but you probably already know them. Okay. What else? We'll talk specific instructions about it, but one very important thing, we mentioned this at the very start of the semester, but programmable calculators are not permitted on the final exam. So if you have not yet, I would highly recommend going to Walgreens or whatever and paying $10 for just a regular scientific calculator so that you have time to practice it and figure out how it all works and get a little practice with it. Okay? I do have a couple of ones that can be borrowed, but if I were you, I would just pay the $10-15 for your own. Yep. Yep, that's perfect. It can be one line with only numbers, or it can be 2 line, like that, but not graphing and not programmable. Okay. Alrighty. So because it's a standardized final exam, your raw score is converted into sort of a national percentile, which is converted into a adjusted score. Okay? So the 50th percentile, it's a 70 question exam. The 50th percentile is right around here, 41, 42 questions out of 70. Okay, so that's the 50th percentile, and that corresponds over here. This is the grade that you get. So the 50th percentile corresponds with right around a 75%. Okay, I'll tell you, students in our class typically get the average typically ends up being maybe a little bit above the 50th percentile, okay, 42, 43, 44, or something like that. But that correlates fairly closely with the averages that we've had on our exams in here. If you're shooting for an A to get a 90%, you need 53 out of 70. So that's not so bad, right? If you're trying to squeak by, if you want a 70%, that's 40. 60%, that's 33 questions. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what's expected. So what I want you to get out of that is that there are going to be questions that you can't answer, okay? That you cannot answer. Okay? Even to get a very excellent score, there will probably still be questions that you'll miss. So if there's a question that you don't know, okay, read it, think about it for maybe a minute or so, and then go on. Do not let yourself get stuck on any one question for more than a couple of minutes. Okay? And even just doing the math, it's 70 questions in 120 minutes. You literally cannot spend more than a couple of minutes on a question. Okay? They're not going to be big, long calculations like we've had sometimes. There may be some short calculations. There will be a little more of an emphasis on some conceptual questions than calculation type questions. So think about that as you're reviewing for that. Okay? But absolutely do not allow yourself to get stuck on a single problem. Okay? Move on. You know, most of you will have plenty of time after you've gone through all the ones that you've done. You'll have time to go back and ponder a little bit more carefully the ones that you don't quite know, but then save yourself 5 minutes or so before the end to just sort of make guesses on the ones that you totally don't know, and then that'll usually work out pretty well. So make sure to review that study guide. You can download it or print it from right there. What are the other things that I said here? The exam is comprehensive, so take a look at its study guide, but if I were you, I would also take a look at the exams 1, 2, and 3 study guides that I put out on there, just to see if, and go back to those exams to see if there were major places that you have gaps in. Okay, you can sort of use that to prioritize the types of things you want to be studying on between now and then. I talked about the percentile. It is worth 150 points, so it's worth more than the other exams. Those were 100 points. And then additionally, whatever percent you get on this final exam will replace your one lowest midterm exam. Okay? So if you had a really bad day on exam 2 or whatever percent you got for the final exam will replace that one, as long as it's an improvement. And for most students in this class, you will have a better percent in your final than at least one of your previous exams. Okay? In case you do worse on your final than all the others, it's still worth its own 150 points, but then just nothing gets substituted. Okay? So 70 questions, 110 minutes, no programmable calculators. So anybody have any questions about that? Yes?
Just multiple choice questions?
Yes, 70 multiple choice questions. Yep. And they are all, I believe, A, B, C, D questions, 4 choices. Other questions? Yes? It has a periodic table included inside the front cover, and it has sort of a list of abbreviations, I guess, but doesn't really have any equations per se. If there's any kind of conversion that you need to do, it'll be provided for you. So you don't need to memorize conversion factors. You do need to memorize the conversion factors you need to memorize, though, like powers of 10 and stuff like that you need to know. But yes?
Did you plan on having like a review day on next Monday?
We will call that TBA for now. It'll sort of depend on how far we get. If we're able to totally finish our content from chapter 10 on Wednesday, then we'll just leave Monday open for studying and reviewing. I'll be in this room and we can do whatever. Other questions? Okay. Well, let's get started on chapter 10.